Hello and welcome to another episode of UK Crossover, your UK-based Philadelphia 76ers podcast. This is our first podcast of the 2025-2026 season. We are 4 games in and we are about as happy as you can be. This will be the pinnacle of our happiness on this podcast. We hope that that isn't going to be the case, but thus far, I don't think we've ever been happier going into a pod or indeed going into 4 games of a season. Sam, as always, I'm joined by yourself. How are you feeling?
About basketball, I'm loving life. Absolutely.
It's been brilliant, hasn't it? It's almost been a bit bewildering because you've been around the Sixers longer than myself. So I've only been with this team since 2018, and naturally that breeds a lot of cynicism, as I've commonly said on this pod. But I've never felt this sort of positive and this sort of pride in this team. Is that a fair bit of analysis? Is that something that you've felt as well, or is this something that you've been through before and you're a bit more tentative? I mean, am I reading this right?
No, and yeah, thanks for reminding me of my age, getting bold. Uh, but yeah, no, it's definitely first time in a very long time. I think for me, since then, around the time when we got Jimmy Butler and we went on a couple of wins, and I thought this is the team to take us into the playoffs and win something. But that was later on in the year. I don't think I've ever been this positive to a start of a season.
Hmm.
For a very long time. So yeah, I can't really because it's been so long. I don't know the last time I was so positive about this. So yeah, it's nice to be back in this feeling of like actually there's a legit here. You know, when Embiid played his first few games, I went to the stretch of games in his first season of playing, and there was a lot of optimism there. But it was obvious the team wasn't ready for a legit playoff run there, and this is the first time I think this early on where it's one of those really weird things where there used to be a show called The Starters on the NBA, and they were like it's early in the season, they'd come up with these ridiculous out like takes and it's like it's only early or one game, but this is going to happen, and it's like we're in that situation after 4 games. It's amazing. It is
Yeah.
amazing.
So we, in our sort of preview pod, which was just a week prior to the start of the season, we had a sort of a prediction looking into our 4 games, our first 4 games. So that would be the Celtics, the Hornets, the Magic, and the Wizards. And I think we came out of it saying, I think a 2-2 would be more than fine. A 3-1 would be great. But here we are with 4-0, unbeaten still. I can't quite believe where we're at. And it started, of course, in Boston, in the Boston Garden, against the dreaded Celtics. Now, we did caveat, look, we know that the Celtics are severely handicapped. There's no Tatum. That front court is, I don't know what it is, to be quite frank. I mean, to be fair, Cater looked really good. Hauser knocked down some threes, but that's not a serious front court. But psychologically, it's massive. It's our relationship with the Celtics sort of supersedes the talent on the court. It is
Mhm.
they've always had our number. They always beat us. When things go bad, they could go really bad. Like, we were this close to getting past them in the playoffs. We still always see that image of however many points up we were with however many minutes left, and we were that close to getting past them, and we didn't. And then we got absolutely beaten down in the game 7. So they've always psychologically been ahead of us. Now, like I said, we end up winning this game by 1 point, 117 to 116. And there are so many moments I can think back to that game already. The missed free throws, the sort of run the Celtics went on in the third quarter, where any other Sixer team would have just folded, would
Mm.
have gone on to lose. And somehow we won that game. I say somehow, I think we all know how we won that game. We won that game due to a gentleman called VJ Edgecombe,
Mm.
someone who I wasn't overly high on going into the season, or I was, do we trade down or do we get K2? Do we get Ace? And that's my first of apology letters that need to go out. But in all seriousness, that was one of the greatest games any Sixer has put forward. I mean, I wouldn't be crazy saying that. And when I say any Sixer, I mean AI, I mean Will, I mean, Dr. J, Moses Malone. that was one of the greatest games you'll ever see by a Sixer player, given the context surrounding it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the fact that me and you both weren't 100% sold that he was the right player. I think there was a potential there. We said about that, and I think a lot of the scouts were like that as well. And general consensus was he's got potential to be a good player, but would it transition to the NBA? And a lot of us thought Ace Bailey was ready. And at the moment after 4 games, we do have to apologise for doubting that. But I think they said it was the second best rookie performance behind Wilt. So yeah, it's just been a fantastic start to the season, and that game in particular, yes, he missed those free throws, but throughout the game he was quality, just absolute quality. And it wasn't just the offense, it was the way he was moving and trying to create things, and also on defense just being a bit of a menace. He didn't necessarily get the stats to back that up, but it was just the energy was there. And this so young and athletic, it's just nice to watch rather than older players getting just pass by and easy layups, easy whatever. But it's it's nice to have VJ just being an absolute menace on defense, even though he's not like an elite defender, and then putting up that elite offensive performance that he did in against the Celtics, against a fairly good team. Like you say, they're 2-3. They won last night, so they're not awful, but obviously they're not at the level that they've been in previous years. But they're probably going to still get maybe seventh, play in or whatever. So it's not a bad team to beat first game.
Yeah, and you think about the people he would have been up against in that backcourt. That's so Derek White, Payton Pritchard, Anthony Simons, and maybe even every now and then he might have had to switch on to Jaylen Brown. The slouches for this Celtics team are in that front court. So actually, he's going up against a team that, in any other year, have aspirations to do quite a lot of damage, and he stood up to them. Not only did he stand up to them, and you mentioned that athleticism, and it tends to be whenever you see players in the NBA that have this sort of level of athleticism, especially in the guard spot, it comes at a detriment of not being able to shoot, which is where we actually thought there might be some shortcomings here. He ended up ripping 5 3-pointers on 13 attempts, over I think 38%, give or take. 13 of 26 in the field, finishing on 34, 7, and 3. So that is the most any rookie has got in their opening game. Within 10 minutes of that same game, he had already surpassed LeBron James's record of the most points by a rookie in the first quarter of a game. Now, I don't care what any of the records are. If you're surpassing LeBron James in anything within 10 minutes of being an NBA player, you are doing something right. And the expectancy would be you must be pretty special. I will also say I'm very aware that Michael Carter-Williams, I believe in that rookie season, he did a lot of record breaking as well, much to no avail. But assuming that doesn't happen again, the only way is up. I mean, you talk about athleticism. Let's say he puts on a bit more muscle. The shot's already there. Then we can get someone who can maybe even guard the 2 spot, the 3 spot, the 1 spot. And there's so many possibilities with VJ. And what I love is, like, you talked about athleticism. You talked about the fact that meant he could get rebounds, he could get blocks. And we'll talk about that big block he had on the Magic the other day. But it's his playmaking as well, which meant that him and Maxey had this lovely little bit of tandem work that they could do with one another. And that helped us will us over the line against the Celtics. I mean, Tyrese Maxey, let's talk about him. He got 40 points in that game. not that many of us actually remember that he got 40, but he did get 40 points in that game. I think he's taken another step already. 4 games. I'm ready to commit. He's taken another step.
100%, and he's actually done that little bit you just said about. He's put on a bit of muscle over the off season, and he's now stepped up even further. And I think he comes off really positive, but it must have taken a beating on him at some point throughout the season and last year when he was struggling a bit. And obviously he played through some injury, and then he had the sit downs, and he might have been able to come back early, but what was the point? And it must just got to him last season, but his mentality and his physicality is a lot different this year. So I'm super confident he's going to sustain this, and he comes across really well as a leader. The inside the NBA interviews last night with him and VJ were cool. Just them having a bit of banter with each other, and it just seems like, and they both kind of mentioned about Grimes and Jared. not playing, and McKay not playing, and obviously Grimes having his role. So the fact is, we've got four guys that seem to, going off that interview, like each other. The vibes are there. He is the leader of that group. You know, you hear about in the NFL, there's these position groups, and I get it. This is a NFL. You got several players in each position, but it seems like Maxi is the lead of the guards, keeps the guards happy, and then it's just filtered across the whole team. And it's fantastic that he's just stepped up as a leader, and he's only 24 still. It's just, or 25. It's just phenomenal that he's done that, and I can't be more happy that we picked Maxi. It's what a steal that was. Thank COVID. There was one positive out of COVID. Maxi
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have March Madness, if I recall, on it, and as a result, we didn't get to showcase quite what he was all about. So that ended up benefiting us hugely. So Maxi is currently at, and these stats will diminish. They will, unfortunately. He's currently at 37 points per game, 4 rebounds and 8 assists. And I will have to highlight his playmaking. One of the things which I was quite concerned about has been fantastic. His shot diet has been fantastic. He's not just lobbing up, random shots in the hope that they'll just go in and because there's a lack of faith in his teammates. Someone's told him how to be a point guard. I'm still not wholly convinced he can do that, but we're trending in the right direction. But one stat I wanted to point you towards. I don't suppose, have you seen his 3-point stats this season thus far as a collective, i.e. how many attempts he's on and the percentage? Do you want to give me a guess on, so let's start with the field goal percentage.
3 points field goal percentage.
Across four games.
Let's go 37.5%.
You are 10% off. He is on 47% field goal percentage from 3.
What?
Do you know how many he's taken a game?
He took about, I reckon, 31.
He's taken 31 threes a game.
No, sorry, in total.
9, yeah.
Game.
You're bang on there. So we got 9 3-pointers a game, 47% from it. His 3-point shot is, and again, I don't know how you managed to improve so greatly from what was already a really fantastic 3-point shooter. I feel so much more confident in it. I feel like it's dropping every time. I feel like he's getting to his spots, not what the defense is giving him. It's just where he wants to be. And consequently, he just looks so much more dangerous. And that's what gets me excited for when those players, i.e. McCain and George, will come back. And it just gives us so many different weapons. Now, after the Celtics game, as happy as I was, I was still a bit concerned about this sort of normal issue that pertains to the Sixers. I'll quickly have to shout out Dominic Barlow, who got 13 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists on his NBA starting debut. He was awesome. Absolutely fantastic. Lots of effort. Still could do with a bit more consistency with his shot, but honestly, so happy with his rebounding, his effort, and that's all we want from him. So really well done to him, and indeed to Jabari Walker as well, who gave a lot of the similar sort of attributes. So we're at the Celtics game. Kelly Oubre, the mental man that is Kelly Oubre, he just did Kelly Oubre things. Nearly shot us out the game. Came up with a massive 3 to then sort of turn it around in our favor, completely swing the pendulum and the momentum shift. And after that, I was like, yeah, I'm still on the very much trade Kelly train. And then we played the Hornets. And I had to sort of sit there and eat my words a bit, because in that 125-121 win, Kelly Oubre was immense. Absolutely immense. And he's been immense ever since. We know there's a player there. We know he tries hard. We know he's very much a Philly guy in terms of his mentality, but he does stupid things. But when he just plays normal, when he plays within the flow of the offense, when all the players are there, when he has Maxi, he has VJ, and he doesn't have to handle the ball that much, he's a serious weapon. I mean, he got 19 points, 7 of 10 from the field. That's all we want. 2 out of 3 from 3. That's all we want. Now, there are still a couple issues that naturally rear its ugly head, but I think he must be one of the success stories of the season. And I think, we'll talk about each player momentarily, but the beauty of this season so far is I think every single player could say, if it wasn't for me, we might have lost one of these games. Honestly, if you think about it, I mean, that even goes as far as Eric Gordon. Like, every single player has done something positive to win a game of basketball so far this season. And Oubre has been instrumental to this team. I mean, I think but the jury is still technically out because I guess it has to be. But he's made me eat my words a lot. So it's, when it comes to Oubre, has he shocked you? Has he surprised you?
Yes and no. I think it's like you said, it's the consistency of it, right? I think he's one of these guys that on his day can turn up and play and look like a solid starter and even put up like potentially like late pick, because obviously they do the picking now, all-star sort of thing. And then the next game you think, how's this guy a starter in the NBA? He's just very, and I think that's the thing with Kelly, and we got to take that as we do. And I think that's how the more he done it. I know last year he got a lot more, like, him and Grimes were both a bit kind of like how they're going to be this year, because they had a lot of ball handling. Actually, they got a chance to score a lot of points last year at times. So it was interesting to see how he'd start. And I think he's probably still trying to find his feet. So I think we probably need to see how he is in maybe 12 more games, 13 more games. Once you get to 15 plus, you can go, okay, is he going to be the inconsistent player that we're used to, or are we going to get a bit more consistency out of him? And also you need to see when Paul George is back and McCain, what it's going to look like for him. And I'm sure we'll get onto it, but like where he's going to fit as a starter or as off the bench.
So it's interesting you mentioned another fella there, Grimes, because we were all, again, after the Celtic game, we're like, oh, maybe he's been a bit found out because he hasn't got his, primary ball handling role. He's not going to be taking X amount of shots. And that's another sort of person who we could arguably issue an apology towards, because he's been, once again, immense. He's been nailing late threes to make sure that we win games. And that was exactly on show. In the Hornets game, it was on show with 24 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 of 8 from the field. And it's such a lovely dilemma to have in terms of how we're going to apportion these minutes, who we're going to put where, are we going to use a 3-guard lineup? And it throws so many issues at the opponent. It does make me wonder as well for the long term, is there any way in which we could hopefully keep him down? But I think this is just going to be have him for one season, then he's going to have to go somewhere else, simply because I just don't see how we'd free up that money, which is a shame. But he's been brilliant. And the third apology, actually, this is the fourth apology I need to issue now. The Hornets game was getting away from us. And I think it's worth saying, the Hornets are really fun to watch. I'm sure you actually, from a neutral perspective, I'm not sure about yourself, but like, they had a lot of fun players to watch. Even if LaMelo Ball perhaps did do a lot of stupid things to get them out of that game. But I mentioned how every player has had at least one opportunity to say that I won us that game. And I think for this game especially, Andre Drummond was that guy, the other guy that we were saying, let's get rid of him. In just backup minutes, he got 7 points and 13 rebounds. And I wrote an article just talking about, Oubre and Drummond and how they're going to fit into this team. And I did a bit of research. Did you know that Drummond is actually statistically the best rebounder in NBA history?
I did not know that.
I thought that was pretty incredible. So
that is a quite. I mean, he had those MVP seasons. Sorry, those seasons where he was all-star seasons where he was really good in Detroit and stuff. But I didn't know that he accumulated so much during that time, and then since that he's that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so we looked at that for rebounding percentage, which looks at the sort of the percentage at which you get a rebound versus another individual, essentially. So it's not just how many rebounds do you take, because that can sometimes not be wholly accurate. But he is better than Dennis Rodman. He is better than Kareem, better than Tim Duncan, better than Kevin Garnett. And obviously this is just at rebounding. It's really important to note. But we've got the best rebounder, one of the best rebounders in NBA history on our team. It's pretty easy to utilize him. And you know what? You've got to credit Coach Nurse to basically say, yeah, we're going to need another big body on there, because Colt Brenner and Diabate were killing us on the boards, and he brings him in, and using his obviously rebounding nous and his humongous size. I mean, he's a big lad. He
Hmm.
absolutely killed him, and I'm loving the sort of backup big rivalry because both Boner and Drummond now have really sort of stamped their authority, saying that we can really do damage for this team, and we can, really compete for those backup Embiid minutes, especially in a time when Embiid we need to sort of handle with care. It's a rarity that we've got that really lovely dilemma that we actually have two centers who both are brilliant at different things and complement each other to a degree.
Yeah, and I was surprised that Bona got a bit more time than him the other night, and then it's like keeping him in that backup role, so he doesn't lose I suppose what you need from him. It seemed to work quite well. So I think, yeah, Nurse deserves credit for how he's utilising those guys. And yes, okay, Bona only got was it 2 points or 4 points the other day, and one of the buckets was the one to help us take the lead against the Wizards. But it was his
Yeah.
defensive work he did, and he's not giving you the 15, 20 points guaranteed like you'd want ideally with Embiid being out the game with a big, but the fact is he's getting the rebound, he's being a presence there, and those two you can trust and go, okay, if we go small and go with the three guards, which I think we're going to have to do more to keep the four guys happy, that behind you there's a guy that is going to protect and hopefully does the job. Gobert last night, I don't know if you've seen the highlights, but him not going near Austin Reeves for the game winner for the Lakers, I don't know what he was doing, but hopefully we don't have any lapses like that with Drummond or Boner. It doesn't seem like that, and it's nice to know that there's going to be, if there is small ball, there's still a big guy at the back, like you say, absolute unit physically, not just like in height, but like in weight as well, that's going to stop someone getting to the rim easily, and guards cover the do the guard play. So yeah, I'm super happy that that's managed to work out. And hey, we wanted Drummond back. This is the Drummond we
Yeah,
wanted, right?
you're
This is not
absolutely
the
bang on. This is the Drummond we signed. This is the one that we had the first time around, and I'm really happy for him. But he does seem like a bit of a confidence player, and I think when he's got everyone backing him, I think we're going to get the best out of him. I think the final sort of point of the center rotation that I wanted to just briefly mention, and I noticed it in the Magic game, is that obviously this is the game after Drummond's had a really brilliant game against Charlotte. He had a bit of a stint, he had a bit of a run out. He was going okay. I think there was a period of time where we were getting desecrated on the boards. So we bring Drummond on, and he does pretty well. Interior wise, he's not the best defender, especially up against your big guys like Banchero, Wagner. And we were noticing that we're sort of leaking a lot defensively in that painted area. So what does Nurse do? He says, right, well, I'm going to bring on Boner now. And consequently, Boner gets a hell of a lot of blocks in, a hell of a lot of defensive plays in, and that works really nicely. And then he starts to notice, well, there's now getting outdone on the boards. What am I going to do? I'm going to bring Drummond back in. And that's what I mean by they complement each other really nicely. Of course, in an ideal world, you'd have someone who could do both. But, we don't live in an ideal world. And that's a really nice sort of opportunity to have where we can sort of share those minutes. And it also means when they have their foul troubles, they can help each other out pretty significantly. So, obviously, let's just continue on this role of the center, and I guess that brings us to Embiid. And it's hard because you don't want to get overly negative. And also, I'm not throwing my toys out the pram. I'm not losing my head because we've seen Embiid start slowly. And also, let's also bear in mind, Embiid has, in inverted commas, started slowly and has put up in his last game 25 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. Now, if you did watch that game against the Wizards, you would have noticed, I'm sure, as well, there were a few shortcomings, most notably his reluctance to actually get up and defend the rim, perhaps his lack of, when I say lack of rebounding, I mean, he got 7 there, but I know that Alex Sarr managed to pick up far more than he did, the opposite 5 for the Wizards. So, yeah, Embiid has started slowly. There's no denying. And NBA Twitter have rubbed their hands and licked their lips at the thought of this because it's just another way that they can get cheap retweets, likes, and just lambast him, which I find really peculiar. And I did tweet something like this: is that it's really odd how Embiid is the only one who people genuinely seem to enjoy his demise. You know,
Mm.
it's odd how every time an NBA player gets injured, there's a unification around the league that, you know, this is horrible to see. We don't want people to get injured. But Embiid gets injured. Embiid is clearly half the player that he was, and they're just finding it absolutely hilarious. Whereas if this was Jason Tatum, or if this was Luka Doncic or anyone like that, AD, they get a pass. I don't understand. It's peculiar. But I just think, you know, fandom can be quite fickle, is what you have to attribute it to. But I digress. Embiid has shown good bits and has indeed shown bad bits. How worried are you, if at all?
I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably at around the 6 mark at the moment because he did, like you say, his last couple of games trying to averaging the points per minute is very good. He's probably the most efficient in the league from an offensive perspective. But you're right, defensively, he's not there. And you kind of like saw on social about him jumping and people saying he can't jump anymore. But then watch him celebrating Boner's block or dunk, I can't remember what
Yeah,
it
that's a
was, and
really
he's
great point.
yeah, his foot were like, he was quite high off the ground, so I'm quite confident he's got it. And I don't know if it's just because I'm hoping because he's quite a closed book with regards to what he speaks about medically, and I suppose that's because of the rules that they have in America over medical. But I don't know if he's been told just chill for the first, like just get through because we didn't expect him to play really in the first part of the season, and I kind of thought his career was over. So the fact we're getting him on the court and he's playing gives me a bit of hope that maybe he's just really slow, and then eventually we're going to see the real Embiid by Christmas. I agree with I think Barkley or someone says it, and I've stuck with it for the last several years in the same thing. NBA doesn't really start till Christmas, so what you do between now and Christmas is just kind of like that pre-season, that ramping up for the real part of the NBA. So I'm hoping that by that point he's in the position where we're like, you know what, he hasn't really missed any games through injury. It's been agreed rest, and he seems to be getting a bit better with his sort of jump in, his minutes and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm above average on worried, but I'm not at that 10 level yet, which hopefully I don't think you are
I'm
either,
not that
right?
worried,
So
to be honest. I think what we've shown is that we've got a lot of people who can alleviate the pressure off of him, which means we don't have to demand too
mhm.
much of him, which means he can actually recover properly. This, in terms of an actual recovery rate, we don't need to be rushing him out and saying, "Please come back, please come back." Because it's shown that Boner and Drummond are doing a good job. We don't have to rush him out because we need points because we've got Oubre, Embiid, not Embiid, Oubre, VJ, Maxi, Grimes, all of whom can get points, and we've got PG coming back soon, McCain coming back soon. So this is the best time for him to actually properly recover and ice it up, as it were, because
Mm.
he doesn't need to be on the court 24/7 for 48 minutes a night to try and get us a win. We can take it slow. And I think that's the beauty of it. Look, in that Boston game, we had him on that minutes restriction, and people who were not clued up were like, "Oh, they didn't play Embiid in the last however many minutes because, oh, he was so bad." It's because he's on a minutes restriction. If anyone did their due diligence, they would know that. But I guess they don't. Um, but the thing is, in previous seasons, we might have just played him anyway. But we have faith in what we've got now
Mm.
to the point where we're like, fine, Joel is here. If we brought him on, we've got a higher likelihood of winning, but we trust these lads. And I think that happened in previous games. We've had a fair few tight games, and we just felt that we don't need to be doing anything too drastic. And again, that's credit to Nurse. He's learning from those mistakes. He's saying, we've got a team here, let's use them. So I'm not overly worried at all.
Mm.
I think, if anything, he's going to surprise a fair few people. But we don't need him to be the 35 point per game scorer. If he wants to operate in around the 25 to 28 points per game, that is perfect as far as I'm concerned. And even then, I don't think he needs to be doing that much. To be honest, he could just be 22 to 25. So
Mm.
there was a recent rumor that came along with it from the ever reliable. It said NBA sources, and then it was just like in with the his Twitter handle, Boogie Cousins, and I was like, right, okay. Boogie Cousins just
Oh,
said,
yeah.
yeah, Embiid's going to be looked to be traded. I'm like, respectfully, mate, what sources have you got?
What's the, yeah?
Like, I don't even
Not
think he's ever played in the Eastern Conference, let alone spent a prolonged period of time in Philadelphia. So where he's getting this source makes no sense. I mean, how short-sighted has any GM got to be that we've played 4 games, won 4, it's time to just sell Embiid, time to trade Embiid, let's just completely no. Let's just see what we've got first. If Embiid and George come back and we end up getting worse, maybe we'll look at something else. But when it's going good, we don't need to do anything drastic. And I found that funny. I put no credence in that whatsoever. So I think
he
go
just
on.
I was gonna say, it's like you said though, you put Embiid's name out on social and it's clickbait, it causes conversation. Can we have a pop at him? That will get clickbaits. Can we talk about him being traded or whatever? It's quite easy to use his name as a interaction thing, and that's the thing. It was just like you say, him just overreacting on social, I think, because Embiid was a better centre than what he was.
And look, it's just an odd. It's always weird when players just go from um, obviously previously playing and then go to punditry. Like Kendrick Perkins as well is just completely off the wall in the things he says and does. And I know that we can talk about the fact that they have to say and do certain things in order to get watches, and there's a lot of ethical issues I have with that. But yeah, Boogie was always sort of for people who never properly watched basketball and engaged in it. They would think, "Oh, Boogie was better," but and I know Boogie likes to think that he was, but no, mate. Let's pump the brakes a bit there. So we have Embiid. He does brilliantly against Washington. There are still some suspect moments defensively that we've picked up on, but ultimately, he shot well from 3. He shot well in the paint. He dominated pretty much as and when he wanted, and we saw a bit of that low post play. So that was really cool to see, and that took us over the line. And I think the Orlando game and the Washington games, especially, I was ranting and raving in the best possible ways, especially after the Orlando one, because that is a game I never thought we'd win. It was one we both agreed, yeah, Orlando probably steal that one. And we were depleted. We didn't play Embiid, but we didn't go down. We didn't die. Orlando kept having our number because they were size. They were so far ahead of us in terms of their size, and they kept dominating us in the low post. But what we kept doing was just fighting back. When they went on a run, we fought back. When things started to get a bit pear-shaped for us, we fought back. And it's the same thing happened in the Wizards game, because we were down double digits and it looked for all the world that we'd lost. But we managed to outscore them by 16 points in the fourth quarter, sending it to overtime. And it's, overall, we can talk about individual stats and people getting blocks, but it's effort plays and it's people trying and working for one another. And it feels like they've really got back into the psyche of the city, because that's all we wanted. Nick Nurse had the quote before the season started saying, we want people to watch the game and at the end of it be like, well, at least we know they gave 110%. And in all of these games, they've done that. And I think that's been the most pleasant surprise for me. It's not been, the points totals and the high 3-point percentages, as lovely as they've been. The effort I'm seeing from this team is astonishing.
100%. The way that I think they utilize that they've what we had before. I think Morey tried to do the vet thing, like try and win with vet, do that. Lakers approach from when they won their championship, albeit in the COVID, and then also what some of the other teams have done. Raptors, and that brought around a couple of young players at the time, and then brought in some vets, and you don't need that many vets. You need that athleticism from the younger players, and I think having that means that you can then trust them to go out and give that effort in the fourth quarter. And it was the Magic game, right, when they scored a buzzer at the
Anthony Black,
just like quarterback sort of throw, just and that resilient, that bounce back, like you said, they kept coming back, and it helped Suggs coming out the game early as well, and for them, but they still had one of the best players, I think, in the NBA, and Banchero is still playing. So when Magic's still got some good players there. So that for me was our best victory of the four
Yeah,
games. Because that I know they're not having a great start. I think they lost again last night, but they they're on paper they're a solid team. So that for me that was the most impressive win based on the talent that was against us at the
yeah,
time. Um, and it was the we can't carry on like this. This is like the Kevin Keegan Newcastle team of the 90s. It was we're just going to outscore and then have a little bit of like defensive, display. One good defender maybe in, like you say, you have those moments from Boner or Drummond, but or VJ blocks as well. But it's generally just outscoring teams. But I think eventually it will settle down, and you'll notice that our scores will be low. Because at the moment we probably have the highest scoring games, I would guess, without checking it. I reckon we probably got one of the highest scoring
yeah. I think
games
we must
of
do. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think the big thing is, like you said, when we get the players back and the likes of PG, and we see what this defense can really do, because it's not sustainable, unfortunately. I think we must have an offensive rating of 120 to 130, and defensive rating of probably somewhere similar. You can't do that. That net rating needs to somewhat expand for us, and that needs to happen by a bit more intensity on the defensive end. Um, so when we think about how to do that, obviously it comes with Embiid, it comes with PG. It could even come with a trade, but I don't want to entertain that too much, because I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair that we talk about trading just yet, given that everyone's playing so fantastically well. But one thing I just wanted to
Yeah.
briefly harp on what you just said is this idea of the balance of youth to vet, because the one vet who we've got in Eric Gordon, and I mean like a serious veteran. I mean, you could say Drummond, but I mean like a serious veteran is Eric Gordon, and we know he wasn't a popular fella, and he got utilized perfectly in that Orlando Magic game, to a point where it's like, this is all you had to do, Nick. He had 6 minutes. Nick Nurse came on and said, "Don't do anything daft. Get a couple threes, play in the flow of the offense. Then I'm going to hook you. Gets 8 points, 2 out of 3 from 3, and then a nice little 2-pointer as well." That's all he had to do. And it's just that little, again, I think we've got to credit Coach Nurse an awful lot, because this is those little tweaks that he's made in his own sort of head about, here's how I'm actually going to approach basketball a bit more. So you've got to credit Nurse, you've got to credit Eric Gordon. And I'm sure as well, because obviously Eric Gordon is a Bahamian player like VJ Edgecombe. They're going to work really well as a sort of mentor-mentee sort of relationship. So finally, we'll just take it through to our next 4 games. With the Celtics at home, this is our first NBA Cup game. We take on then the Brooklyn Nets in Brooklyn, the Chicago Bulls in Chicago, and the Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland. So,
Hmm.
what are we saying? It's like, all of those are
Again.
winnable. All of those are genuinely winnable. But yeah, I mean, let's take it step by step. The Celtics.
Well, I want to say win, because I really want us to go. It would be nice for us to win the NBA Cup. I'd like to win it, be one of the first people to win it. It's only been operating for a few years. To win it within the first 5-6 years would be nice. So I would like us to go on a little run. So and by then, that means you're also having a good regular season, right? Because obviously it's combined games. It's only the final, isn't it, or the semi-final that are extra games. So yeah, I think we win that one. It's on Prime as well, I believe, UK Prime, and it's on at like 6:30. So it's on at like 10:30 for us, which is great at the moment for our time difference. So I don't want it to be one of those old things where it's UK friendly, so let's play awful for our international fans. So I'm gonna say
Yeah,
win.
I'm in agreement. We could just talk about the fact that we beat them last week. They're not doing the best, but even then, like, I just don't like picking the Celtics over us. So I'm always going to be slightly biased in my predictions there. The Nets in Brooklyn. I feel like this will be quite a quick one, but go on.
Yeah, lest we underestimate and do something stupid, which I don't think we will. That should be an easy
Yeah,
win, right?
Brooklyn are a developing team. They play for themselves. I've watched a bit of Brooklyn this year, it's Cam Thomas being like, "I just want to get my points for tonight." It's Michael Porter Jr. doing very similar. They got really exciting young point guard in Diego Demin. I'm not sure if you watched, but he's a 6'9"
Mhm.
point guard that can actually shoot. So he's Ben Simmons with a shot, perhaps less mobile. Um, but he's been really cool to watch. So I'm quite excited to see a bit more of him. But yeah, this should be a win. If you got any real title aspirations or any real aspirations end off, you beat this team pretty simply. We then head up to Chicago, and they've actually done all right. Bizarrely, they are very much a mediocre. I think I mentioned in a podcast previously, they are the very definition of mediocrity in the NBA. But they're doing well, to their credit. Vucevic is looking like a new player. He's certainly come out firing. Buzelis looks awesome. Um, we're in Chicago, of course, on the second part of a road trip. So
Yes.
I don't know. I think this could be a bit of a tricky one.
Yeah, I remember I just wanted to make sure I got their name right. See Red UK, UK Bulls fans. They even admitted that when I spoke to them in the past, that they're like that. They are a mediocre sort of franchise at the moment, and it's kind of like deciding what they need to do. And when I was speaking to them, obviously because they're Drummond at the time and things like that, and they're players that we were like, I was like, I wouldn't mind having. But it seems like they've got a vision now. They've seemed like they're going to try and go younger, try not full on rebuild, but kind of go slowly, like, and see what goes along. I suppose I'm not massively into it, but like a Flyers type approach in hockey, where you try and get into playoffs, and then if you don't, it's great. You still got loads of assets you can play around with. So it's such a hard. Because of that, it's so hard to predict. Like they could turn up one night and be great, or they could be on paper, which they are, which is we should win. I'm gonna say win because I'm gonna say lose for the Cavs
Yeah,
game.
I think that's fair. I think with the Bulls, it's like they're just an odd team at the moment. I think Kobe White's out. I'm not sure if he's back by the time we play him. I don't think he is. They got Patrick Williams is playing well, but he always starts the season quite well and then tails off. But for now, he's playing well. Buzelis, like I said, Desumu, Ayo Desumu. He looks really, really cool. So they got some players there. I think with this, I'm basically saying one of the Bulls game or the Cavs game will lose. I just don't know
Hmm.
which one. And we'll talk about the Cavs now. So it could be the Bulls, it could be the Cavs, as far as I'm concerned. And I do think it'll be a 3-1 stretch that we're going to go on. Um, I we talked about it before. It's not I don't rate the Cavs. It's that I just don't. I'm not scared of the Cavs.
No, I was just looking at their last night. I just wanted to check the thing. So Donovan Mitchell has been quite efficient. He was efficient again last night. And obviously he's one of these guys that when he's in one of these little runs where he's efficient, he is one of the best players in the league. So I just hope that by the time we play him, that he might not be hitting because his field goal percentage is 45%. His 3%, his 3 point percentage was low actually, 1 for 8. So, but is his getting to the rim and his 2 point is coming in. So it is tough. But you're right. I can't see us going or like if we're 8-0, so I'll be. I know I don't want to say a forfeit in case we do it and we have to do it on the podcast or in the PSI chat, but I'll be very shocked if we're 4-0 after that. Sorry, 8-0 after this four
Yeah,
games.
yeah. I just think the thing with the Cavs is that they're missing Garland. There's just something about them. I mean, Mobley and Allen are great. They really, really are. Defensively, they're going to cause us a lot of issues. And I worry that their rebounding as well might overwhelm us, and we're going to have to really stand up to that. But I don't think anyone's ever like, oh God, Evan Mobley's playing. That's really terrifying. Like he's brilliant. He's really, really brilliant. And it's the same with Aaron. They're brilliant, brilliant NBA players. They really are, and they can be a piece on a title-winning team. But they just don't scare me.
Mm.
Donovan Mitchell scares me, but he alone isn't enough. I mean, they've got Lonzo, and I think he's still feeling his way back into the feel of things in the NBA. And I'm glad he's back, but he's not what he used to be. DeAndre Hunter, he's a good player on paper. I actually quite like that move, but it doesn't seem to quite be ticking for him just yet. And then they got people like Sam Merrill who can hit a three, and I just don't think there's much to be awfully afraid of, and therefore we can really get at them. But that being said, they are still more than capable of beating us. And if they did beat us, I'll be like, you know what, we have lost to a team that a lot of people have quite high hopes for. I'm just not overly high on them myself, really. So 4 games, 3-1. We saying 3-1? Whatever the one is, we do not know yet, but
Yeah,
3-1.
yeah, yeah. It'd probably be the Nets now. We've written off the other ones,
Yeah, that would be sod's law.
but yeah, no,
Right.
it would. But I think Cleveland definitely is one of the
Yeah,
losses.
definitely. Yeah, I think you're probably right there. So I think we're gonna have to park that one there for now. We could talk for ages about
Hmm.
every player on this team, about how brilliant they've done thus far. But if we did that, this podcast would treble or quadruple in length. But thank you so much for coming on. It was for those who are unaware, this was quite of a slapdash podcast. We just wanted to get our thoughts across on what has been a monumentally brilliant week. We'll hopefully get back to you again next week and have that more of the same positive sentiment. And touch wood, we will. So, Sam, thank you so much for coming on. Where can we find you on socials?
Yeah, thanks for having me as always. Yes, I'm on Twitter or X as Sam UK Sixers fan, and I'm also part of the community, which I'm sure you're going to talk about in a minute with PSI. So you can find me in those two. What about yourself?
So I am at UK76ers on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. Also, UK76ers on Instagram, trying to get a bit more going on that one. Likewise, I'm part of the Philly Sports International community, so PSI. If you want to become a member, it's just £20 for the year to have access to all of our WhatsApp groups, all of our fantasy games, all of our giveaways, and that's for the Sixers, Flyers, Phillies, and Eagles, as well as some college sports as well. So in November, 23rd of November, just to make sure you guys are aware, on Sunday, we have a double header watch party at Passyunk Avenue on Leek Street next to London Waterloo. That is going to firstly start off with the Sixers against the Miami Heat at the UK-friendly tip-off time of 6:30. Then followed by the Philadelphia Eagles against the Dallas Cowboys, which is always going to be a big game. So make sure you come on down to that to gain some good prizes. I've already got some nice little prizes together for you guys. Hopefully, maybe get a couple more too. How I'm going to lug all of them up to London, I am yet to figure out just yet, but I'm sure we'll get that sorted just all there for you. It is free entry. Just make sure you express that you would like to come just so we can figure out the numbers and whatnot, and I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic evening. Until then, have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for listening. Bye, guys.